he did left everyone stunned. The diamond ring left a scar. When Iris Dalton threw herself between a socialite's hand and a confused elderly woman's face, the blow landed on her instead, hard enough to split skin, hard enough to end her career, hard enough to make her bleed on white marble in front of Manhattan's elite. She lost her job in that moment, lost her only income. But what she didn't know was that the frail woman she'd shielded was someone's entire world. And Roman Cross, the man who controlled half the city's underground, was about to show everyone exactly what happened when you touched his mother. Iris saved a life that night. Roman was about to destroy dozens in return. And because what happens in the next 48 hours will prove that protecting the wrong person's family can rewrite your entire world. The chandeliers of the Hartwell estate didn't just sparkle, they screamed money. Light refracted off crystal teardrops, casting dizzying rainbows over hundreds of guests swarming the ballroom. For Iris Dalton, the light wasn't beautiful. It was a spotlight on her exhaustion. Iris adjusted the starched collar of her uniform, fingers trembling slightly. She'd been on her feet for 14 hours. The shoes the agency made her wear were a size too small, pinching her toes until they went numb. But she forced a smile. She had to. Her younger brother Liam needed his medication, and the rent on their crumbling apartment was 2 months overdue. Losing this gig wasn't an option. Champagne, a voice snapped. Iris pivoted, lowering her tray. Of course, sir. The man didn't look at her. None of them did. To the elite of New York's upper crust, the staff were moving furniture, necessary but invisible until they got in the way. Tonight was the engagement party for Vanessa Sterling and Preston Hartwell. It was the merger of two shipping empires, a union built on stocks and bonds rather than affection. Vanessa was holding court near the grand staircase, wearing a dress that cost more than Iris would earn in 10 lifetimes. Vanessa was beautiful in a sharp, predatory way, her laugh echoing shrilly above the orchestra. Iris moved toward the periphery of the room, collecting empty flutes. That was when she saw her. An elderly woman was wandering near the buffet tables. She stood out immediately, not because of what she was wearing, but because of how she wore it. Her dress was black and modest, clearly high quality, but it lacked the ostentatious flash of the other guests. She looked confused, clutching a small worn leather purse with white-knuckled intensity. Her grey hair was pulled back in a severe bun, but wisps had come loose. She looked lost. Iris paused, watching. The woman reached for a canapé, her hand shaking. As she pulled it away, she bumped into a waiter rushing past. The waiter stabilized his tray, shot the old woman a dirty look, and kept moving. The woman flinched, shrinking in on herself. "Excuse me," the woman murmured to no one, her voice barely a whisper. Iris felt a tug in her chest. She knew that look. It was the look of someone drowning in a sea of people who refused to throw a lifeline. Suddenly the crowd parted. Vanessa Sterling was marching toward the buffet, Preston trailing behind looking bored. Vanessa was clearly tipsy, her face flushed, her movements jerky. "I specifically asked for the beluga caviar," Vanessa was complaining loudly. "If the caterer messed this up, I'm ruining his reputation before midnight." She turned sharply, not watching where she was going. The collision was inevitable. Vanessa slammed right into the elderly woman. Crash. Red wine, which Vanessa had been holding in her left hand, splashed across the front of her pristine ivory silk gown. The glass shattered on the marble floor. The ballroom went silent. The orchestra stopped playing. Vanessa stared down at her ruined dress, her mouth agape. Then her eyes snapped up to the old woman. The shock on Vanessa's face curdled instantly into pure fury. "You clumsy old hag," Vanessa shrieked, her voice cracking like a whip through the silence. The elderly woman trembled, her hands raising in a defensive posture. I am so sorry, miss. I didn't see. You didn't see." Vanessa stepped forward, her heels clicking ominously on the marble. "Do you have any idea what this is? This is Vera Wang custom. It's worth more than your entire existence." "Vanessa, calm down," Preston said, though he didn't move to intervene. He looked more amused than concerned. "No, look at her." Vanessa gestured wildly at the old woman. "Who even let her in? She smells like mothballs and poverty. Security. Where is security?" The old woman's eyes filled with tears. She looked terrifyingly small. "Please," she whispered. "I'm looking for my son. I got turned around. I don't care about your son." Vanessa lunged forward, grabbing the old woman by her fragile shoulder and shaking her. "You ruined my night." Iris didn't think. She didn't calculate the cost. Her body moved before her brain could catch up. She dropped her tray. The crash of crystal flutes echoed loudly, and she sprinted across the gap. Vanessa raised her hand. It was a reflex of pure entitlement. She was going to slap the old woman. She wound up, her palm flat, her face twisted in a snarl. "No, Iris cried out. She threw herself between them. She wrapped her arms around the elderly woman, turning her back to Vanessa just as the hand came down. Crack. The slap landed squarely on Iris's cheek. It was hard. Vanessa wore a heavy diamond ring, and the metal bit into Iris's skin, cutting her cheekbone. The force of the blow knocked the wind out of her, and her head snapped to the side. The silence in the room deepened, becoming heavy and suffocating. Iris blinked, tasting copper. Her face burned like it was on fire. But she didn't let go of the old woman. She held her tighter, feeling the frail body shaking against her own. "Are you okay?" Iris whispered to the woman. The old woman looked up, her dark eyes wide with shock. "Child, how dare you?" Vanessa screamed, shaking her stinging hand. "You filthy servant. You threw yourself at me." Iris slowly turned to face her. Blood trickled down her cheek, stark red against her pale skin. She stood tall despite the throbbing in her face and the trembling of her legs. "She's an elderly woman," Iris said, her voice shaking but clear. "She didn't mean to spill the wine. You were going to hurt her." "I can do whatever I want," Vanessa hissed. "I'm a Sterling, and you are nothing." She turned to the head of the catering staff, who had rushed over looking pale as a ghost. "Fire her, now, and ensure she never works in this city again. I want her blacklisted from every agency in New York." The manager, a sweating man named Henderson, nodded frantically. "Yes, Miss Sterling, immediately." He turned to Iris, his eyes hard. "Get out. Leave the uniform at the back. You're done." Iris felt the tears prickling, but she refused to let them fall. "Not here. Not in front of these vultures." "I'm leaving," Iris said. She looked back at the old woman. "Are you all right, ma'am? Do you need help finding the exit?" Before the woman could answer, Preston stepped in, grabbing Iris's arm roughly. "You heard the lady. Get out before we call the police for assault." Iris pulled her arm free. She gave the old woman one last reassuring squeeze on the hand. "Be safe," she whispered. Then, head held high despite the blood and the humiliation, Iris Dalton turned and walked out of the ballroom. She left behind her job, her dignity, and her only source of income. She didn't notice the old woman watching her go, her dark eyes no longer fearful, but burning with a strange, intense calculation. The old woman reached into her purse, not for a tissue, but for a phone. She dialed a single number. "Roman," the woman said, her voice steel beneath the tremor. "Come get me, and bring the car, the big one." 3 days passed before the next strike, but Roman Cross had been working every second of them. Iris spent those days in a kind of surreal disbelief. Her room at the Cross estate was larger than her entire old apartment, with a balcony overlooking manicured gardens. The bed was Egyptian cotton and down. The bathroom had heated marble floors. It was beautiful, terrifying, and felt like a cage made of silk. Liam had been transferred to St. Michael's specialist wing within hours of her signing. He'd called that first night, crying so hard she could barely understand him. "They have everything here, Iris. The doctor spent an hour just talking to me." She actually listened. That made the cage feel less confining. Iris spent her days with Elena Cross. The older woman wasn't cold or imperious. She was lonely, trapped by her son's world and his overprotective nature. They drank tea in the solarium, arranged flowers, talked about everything and nothing. Elena told stories about growing up in southern Italy, making pasta by hand with her grandmother, the smell of lemon trees in summer. "I miss the simplicity," Elena said one afternoon, fingers gentle on white rose petals. "Before all this, before the money, and the fear, and the men with guns in my hallway." While the estate was peaceful, Iris could feel the storm brewing beneath the surface. Roman was rarely seen, a shadow moving through the house late at night. When she did see him, it was fleeting. He'd appear in doorways, check on his mother in rapid Italian, and disappear. His eyes would flicker to Iris for the briefest moment, unreadable, assessing, then he'd be gone. She didn't know what he was planning, but she could feel it building like pressure before a storm. The first strike happened on Tuesday. Iris was in the library with Elena, reading aloud, when the heavy oak doors opened. Roman walked in dressed in a sharp three-piece suit that made him look like a shark in human clothing. "Turn on the television," he said. Elena clicked on the news. Special report on the Financial Channel. The headline screamed, "Sterling shipping stock plummets amid fraud allegations." Iris gasped, covering her mouth. On screen, a reporter stood outside Sterling headquarters. "Chaos on Wall Street this morning, as massive irregularities were discovered in Sterling shipping manifests. An anonymous tip led federal investigators to uncover millions in unpaid tariffs and ghost ships. The stock has dropped 40% in the last hour. Trading suspended." The screen cut to Preston Hartwell, pushing past paparazzi, sweaty and terrified. "No comment. We're cooperating fully." Iris stared, mouth dry. She turned slowly to Roman. He was watching with a face carved from marble, swirling scotch with deliberate movements. "You did this?" Iris asked, voice barely audible. Roman looked at her, eyes cold, calculating, devoid of remorse. "I didn't do anything. I merely shined a light on truth. Preston Hartwell has been cooking books for years to fund gambling debts. I just made sure SEC found the right ledger." "But Vanessa, watch," Roman commanded. The news cut to live feed from Charity Gala at Plaza Hotel. Luncheon, Vanessa had been promoting all week. Camera zoomed on ballroom, Vanessa at podium in pink, trying to give speech about women's empowerment. Suddenly, two men in windbreakers with FBI on back walked onto stage. Audio fuzzy, but image crystal clear. Crowd gasped. Vanessa looked confused, then furious. Pointed finger at agents, mouth moving in clear scream. One agent calmly took her wrist, spun her around, cuffed her. "Oh my God," Elena whispered, crossing herself. "They're arresting her." "Obstruction of justice," Roman said, sipping scotch. "And complicity in wire fraud. Her fiancé used her personal accounts to hide money. Forged her signature. She didn't know too stupid to understand forensic accounting, but law doesn't care. Intent isn't required for complicity." On screen, Vanessa screaming, mascara running in black streaks, marched off stage in front of New York's elite. Cameras flashed. The woman who'd called Iris nothing 3 days ago was now paraded in handcuffs in front of everyone who mattered. The engagement party had been her peak. This was the trench. Iris felt a mix of shock and something darker. Guilty, vicious satisfaction. "Is this the end of it?" she asked. Roman turned to her, set down glass, walked over, placed hand on back of her chair, leaned down so face was inches from hers. Smell of him intoxicating, sandalwood and gunpowder, and something darker that made pulse race. "The end." Roman chuckled darkly. "Iris, this is the prologue. Vanessa took your dignity. I took her reputation. Next I take their legacy." "Seems cruel," Iris whispered, looking at crying woman on screen. Roman studied her face. "Cruelty is matter of perspective. She would have let you starve, would have let your brother die, for lack of medicine, because you bruised her ego. I am not cruel, Iris. I am just." He walked toward door, paused. "Get dressed, not uniform. Wear something elegant. Package on your bed. Where are we going?" Roman looked back, smiled, terrifying, beautiful thing. "Sterling's holding emergency board meeting at Plaza tonight. They're going to try selling assets to cover debt, avoid bankruptcy. I am the buyer, and I want you there when I buy the roof out from over their heads." The dress was midnight blue silk that caught light like water. When Iris put it on, looked in mirror, didn't recognize woman staring back. Didn't look like maid anymore. Looked like she belonged in Roman's world. Found him waiting in foyer, dressed in tuxedo. When his eyes traveled over her, something flickered in icy depths. Approval, possession, something else she couldn't name. "Perfect," he said quietly. Offered arm. "Shall we?" When they walked into Plaza lobby, air seemed to leave room. People stopped mid-conversation to stare. Roman radiated power like heat from forge. His presence alone made people step aside. They took private elevator to penthouse suite where meeting was held. Security guard at door, clipboard in hand. Private meeting. No entry. One of Roman's men, mountain of muscle named Luca, stepped forward, whispered something in guard's ear. Guard's face went pale. Immediately stepped aside, opened doors. Room filled with shouting men in expensive suits. Smoke hung heavy, despite no smoking policy. At head of table sat William Sterling, Vanessa's father. Looked like he'd aged decade in 3 days. Face grey, hands shaking as he gestured at spreadsheets. Vanessa there too, out on bail, sitting in corner with vodka. Eyes puffy and red, looked like ghost of herself. When doors opened, room went silent. Every head turned. "Who the hell are you?" William barked, standing. "This is closed meeting." Roman walked in, footsteps echoing. Iris beside him, head high, despite hammering heart. "I am the reason you are all here." Vanessa looked up, eyes narrowed, then widened in disbelief as she recognized Iris. "You, the maid? You brought the maid?" Turned to father, voice rising hysterically. "Daddy, that's the girl, the one who assaulted me. Get her out." "Sit down, Vanessa," Roman said. Didn't shout, didn't raise voice, but command in those words cracked like whip. Vanessa took step toward him, fury contorting face. "You don't tell me." Roman turned gaze on her, didn't move, didn't touch, simply looked at her with such cold, absolute intensity, she faltered mid-sentence. Took step back, sank into chair. Roman turned attention to William, dismissing Vanessa as if she no longer existed. Mr. Sterling, I believe you're looking for liquidity injection to avoid bankruptcy tomorrow morning. William's face drained of color. Cross, you're the businessman, Roman corrected smoothly. I have purchased your outstanding debt from bank. All of it, $300 million, tossed folder onto table. Slid down polished wood, stopped directly in front of William. You owe bank nothing. You owe me everything. What do you want? William whispered, sinking back into chair. I want the company. I want the fleet. I want the roots. And I want the estate. You can't have the estate, Vanessa screamed. That's my home. Roman turned gaze to her, slowly put arm around Iris's waist, pulling her flush against his side. Possessive, claiming gesture. Actually, I think it will make lovely summer home for Iris. She always did like the architecture, though staff will certainly need replacing. Vanessa gaped, mouth opening and closing. Looked from Roman to Iris, girl she'd tried to destroy, now standing in gown worth more than Vanessa's car, protected by most dangerous man in city. Iris looked at Vanessa, saw fear, confusion, realized Roman was right. This wasn't just revenge, it was rebalancing of world. You have until midnight to sign transfer deeds, Roman said to William. Or I call in debt, and you go to prison for fraud. My team uncovered. Your choice. Turn to leave, keeping arm tight around Iris. Wait, Vanessa cried out, desperate tears streaming. You can't do this. It's not fair. Roman paused at door. Didn't turn around. Fairness is for children, Vanessa. You should have learned that when you slapped a helpless old woman. Open door. Come, Iris. Let's get dinner. I know place that serves excellent caviar. And they never spill. As doors closed behind them, muffling sounds of Sterling screaming at each other, Iris looked up at Roman. You really bought their house? I bought their lives, Roman said. For you. 2 weeks after the incident at the Plaza Hotel, the Sterling Empire had effectively ceased to exist. It was a slow-motion car crash that the entire city watched with morbid fascination. The tabloids were ruthless. Photos of Vanessa leaving a pawn shop, trying to sell a Birkin bag for cash, were splashed across the front pages. William Sterling had suffered a mild cardiac event and was hiding in a private clinic, dodging subpoenas. But inside the Cross estate, the atmosphere was strangely domestic. Iris was no longer just the girl who saved Elena. She was becoming something else. A fixture, a necessity. She sat in the solarium one afternoon, sun warming the stone floors. Liam sat across from her, looking healthier than he had in years. His cheeks had color, and he was laughing at a video on his new tablet. This place is awesome, Iris, Liam said, looking around at the lush greenery. The doctors here actually explain things to me. They don't just talk like I'm not there. I'm glad, Liam. Iris smiled, though a small knot of worry tightened in her stomach. You just focus on getting better. Mr. Cross came by yesterday, Liam said casually, biting into a sandwich. Iris froze. He did? Yeah, he brought me a chess set. Said a man needs to learn strategy. He played a game with me. He's really good, Iris. Beat me in 4 moves, but then he showed me how to stop it from happening again. Iris felt a flush rise to her cheeks. Roman Cross, the man who dissolved companies with a phone call, was playing chess with her teenage brother. It was confusing. It was dangerous, and it made her heart do a traitorous flip in her chest. Later that evening, Iris found Roman on the terrace. He was smoking a cigar, the smoke curling up into the night air. He wore a crisp white shirt with the sleeves rolled up, revealing forearms thick with muscle, and marked by faint jagged scars, reminders of a life Iris could barely imagine. You visited Liam, she said, stepping out of the shadows. Roman turned. His expression was unreadable as always. The boy has a sharp mind. It would be a waste to let it rot in a public school system that doesn't care. You've done so much, Iris said, moving to the railing beside him. The house, the medical bills, the protection. I feel like I'm taking advantage. You are not, Roman said abruptly. He turned to face her. You bring peace to this house, Iris. My mother hasn't smiled this much since my father died. That is worth more than money. He stepped closer. The air between them crackled with electricity. And you, Iris whispered, looking up at him. Do you smile? Roman reached out, his hand hovering near her face, before his fingers lightly traced the line of her jaw. The bruise from the ring was gone now, healed without a trace, but he touched the spot, as if he could still see it. I am learning, he murmured. His gaze dropped to her lips. Iris's breath hitched. She leaned in just an inch. Ring. The harsh sound of a cell phone shattered the moment. Roman pulled back instantly, the mask of the boss slamming back into place. He pulled his phone from his pocket, his eyes narrowing as he read the screen. I have to take this, he said, his voice cold again. Go inside, Iris. It's getting late. Iris nodded, feeling cold and foolish. She retreated into the house, missing the look of regret that flashed across Roman's face before he answered the call. Meanwhile, on the other side of the city, in a motel room that smelled of stale beer and mildew, Preston Hartwell paced the floor. The room was small and dim. Vanessa was passed out on the lumpy bed, an empty bottle of cheap vodka on the nightstand. She was a mess, hair unwashed, makeup smeared. The princess had fallen, and she had broken into 1,000 jagged pieces. Preston, however, was not broken. He was desperate, and desperation made him dangerous. He looked at the man sitting in the corner armchair. The man was cleaning his fingernails with a switchblade. He was thick-set, bald, with a tattoo of a scorpion climbing up his neck. "You said you could help," Preston hissed. "I've been waiting for an hour, Victor." Victor Russo looked up. He was a lieutenant for the Russo crime family, the bitter rivals of the Cross family. The Russos had been trying to claw back territory from Roman for years, but Roman was too smart, too powerful. "I said I would listen," Victor corrected, his voice like gravel. "You have nothing, Hartwell. No money, no influence. Why should I help you?" "Because I know his weakness," Preston said, his eyes gleaming with manic intensity. Victor laughed. "Roman Cross has no weaknesses. The man is a machine." "He didn't before," Preston said, "but he does now. A girl, a maid, a nobody named Iris Dalton. She saved his mother, and now he's moved her into the estate. He bought my fiancée's family home, just to give it to her. He's obsessed, Victor. I saw the way he looked at her at the plaza. He looked at her like she was the only thing in the room." Victor sat up straighter. "Cross is sheltering a civilian in the main house." "Yes, and she leaves the house," Preston said. "She goes to St. Michael's Hospital every Tuesday and Thursday to visit her brother. Minimal security because he thinks no one knows about the brother." Victor smiled. It was an ugly expression that showed too many gold teeth. "If we take the girl, you can demand anything. Territory, money, the ports. I want 5 million, Preston said. "And I want to be the one to tell Vanessa that the girl who ruined her life is dead." Victor snapped the switchblade shut. "Done. Tuesday is tomorrow. We'll be waiting." Tuesday morning broke with a heavy grey sky. Rain threatened to wash away the city's grime, but the humidity remained thick and oppressive. Iris felt an unease she couldn't explain. As she prepared to leave for the hospital, she hesitated by the door. "Do you want me to come with you today?" Elena asked, sensing her hesitation. "No," Iris shook her head. "You have your bridge game with the ladies. I'll be fine. Mr. Cross assigned 2 guards to drive me." "Good," Elena patted her hand. "Give Liam my love. Tell him I'm baking lasagna for when he visits this weekend." Iris smiled and walked out to the waiting SUV. The guards, Rocco and Sal, were regulars. They were big, silent men who treated Iris with polite deference. "Straight to St. Michael's, Miss Iris?" Rocco asked from the driver's seat. "Yes, please." The drive was uneventful until they reached the underpass, just a few blocks from the hospital. Construction had narrowed the road to a single lane. Traffic was crawling. "I hate this city," Sal grumbled, checking the side mirror. Suddenly, a heavy delivery truck in front of them slammed on its brakes. Rocco reacted instantly, stomping on the pedal, but the SUV skidded on the wet pavement, stopping inches from the truck's bumper. "What is this idiot doing?" Rocco growled. Before he could reverse, a van screeched up behind them, boxing them in. "Ambush," Rocco shouted, reaching for his holster. "Get down, Miss Iris." It happened in seconds. The back doors of the van flew open. 4 men in balaclavas poured out carrying assault rifles. They didn't fire at the car. The glass was bulletproof. Instead, they fired at the tires, blowing them out with deafening pops. Then one of them attached something to the passenger window. A shaped charge. Boom. The window shattered inward. Sal screamed as glass sprayed him, but he managed to fire 2 shots before he was pistol-whipped into unconsciousness. The door was ripped open. A hand grabbed Iris's arm. "No," she screamed, kicking out. She connected with a shin, but the man didn't even flinch. He was huge. "Grab her. We're on a clock," a voice shouted. Iris was dragged out of the SUV into the rain. She saw Rocco slumped over the steering wheel, blood on his forehead. "Rocco," she cried. A heavy bag was shoved over her head. The world went black. She felt a needle jab into her neck. "Sleep, princess," a rough voice whispered in her ear. The last thing Iris heard was the squeal of tires as the van sped away, leaving the wreckage of the SUV smoking in the rain. The Cross estate, 1 hour later. Roman was in a meeting with his captains when his phone rang. It was a specific ringtone, the emergency line. The room went silent as he answered. He listened for 10 seconds. His face didn't change. He didn't scream. He didn't throw the phone. But the temperature in the room seemed to drop 20 degrees. His eyes, usually cold, turned into black voids. "Is she alive?" Roman asked quietly. He listened again. "If she has a scratch on her," Roman said, his voice a low, terrifying rumble, "I will peel the skin from your bones while you watch." He hung up. He stood slowly. His men, hardened criminals who had seen war, looked at him with genuine fear. They had seen Roman angry before. They had never seen him like this. This wasn't anger. This was an apocalypse. "Boss," his second-in-command, Luca, asked tentatively. "They took her," Roman said. He walked to the wall safe and punched in a code. The heavy steel door swung open. He pulled out a black tactical vest and a pair of silver pistols. "Who?" Luca asked. "Victor Russo, and that rat Preston Hartwell. They want the docks. They want a trade." He checked the chamber of his gun. Click-clack. He turned to his men. "Call everyone. Pull the guys from Jersey. Pull the guys from the Bronx. I want every soldier we have on the street in 20 minutes. We're going to war over a girl," one of the older captains asked, looking skeptical. Roman stopped. He looked at the captain. "No," Roman said. "We're going to war for my future wife." The room went deadly silent. "Burn it down," Roman ordered. "Find out where they're keeping her, and kill everyone who stands in your way." The warehouse on the docks. Iris woke up with a pounding headache. She was tied to a chair in the middle of a large, dusty warehouse. The smell of rust and seawater was overwhelming. She blinked, her vision clearing. Standing in front of her was Preston Hartwell. He looked manic, his tie loose, sweat staining his shirt. Finally awake, Preston sneered. "Preston," Iris croaked. "Why? Why?" Preston laughed hysterically. "Look at me. Look at what you did. I had everything. Money, status, a future. And you little gutter rat. You took it all. You committed fraud," Iris said, her voice strengthening. "You did this to yourself." Preston slapped her. It stung, but compared to the fear pulsating through her, it was nothing. "Shut up," Preston screamed. "You're just the bait. When your boyfriend comes, we're going to kill him. And then I'm going to leave you here for the rats." From the shadows, Victor Russo stepped forward. He looked at Iris with cold appraisal. "She's pretty. Cross has good taste. It's a shame." He checked his watch. He got the message. He should be calling to negotiate surrender any minute now. Iris looked at them. She was terrified. Yes, but she remembered the look in Roman's eyes when he spoke about his enemies. She remembered the chess game with Liam. "He won't negotiate," Iris said softly. Preston looked at her. "What? He won't negotiate," Iris repeated, looking Preston dead in the eye. "You think you kidnapped a businessman's girlfriend? You didn't. You kidnapped the devil's conscience. And now that I'm gone, there's nothing holding him back." As if on cue, the lights in the warehouse flickered and died. Total darkness. Then from outside came a sound. Not sirens. Not shouting. It was the rhythmic thumping sound of a heavy-caliber machine gun, tearing through the metal doors of the warehouse. Thump, 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 thump. Beams of light from laser sights cut through the dust. The devil had arrived. The warehouse walls disintegrated under the barrage. Amidst the chaos of muzzle flashes and falling bodies, Roman moved like a phantom. He didn't fire blindly. Every shot from his silver pistols found its mark. Victor Russo fell first, his ambition choking on his own blood, before he could even raise his weapon. Preston Sterling scrambled backward into the corner, weeping, holding his shaking hands up. "It was just business. Please, I can fix this." Roman stepped over him, holstering his weapon. He didn't even look down. "Luca," he said calmly to his second-in-command. "Take out the trash." As Luca dragged the screaming man away into the darkness, Roman fell to his knees beside Iris. His hands, usually so steady, shook as he cut the ropes binding her wrists. "I thought," Iris sobbed, burying her face in his neck, the scent of gunpowder and sandalwood overwhelming her senses. "Never," Roman whispered, lifting her effortlessly into his arms. "I would tear the stars from the sky before I let them keep you." 6 months later, the Sterling estate had a new name, Villa Iris. The gardens were in full bloom, erasing the memory of the cold, sterile place it used to be. Vanessa was serving 5 years in federal prison. Her father was bankrupt and forgotten. But here, there was only light. Iris stood on the balcony, wearing white, watching Liam run through the grass with a new puppy, his laughter echoing in the summer air. He was healthy now, thriving, talking about college and the future, like they were real possibilities instead of distant dreams. Roman appeared behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. He placed a black velvet box on the railing. Inside sat a diamond that made the ring Vanessa had used to cut. Iris looked like a toy. "You saved my mother," Roman murmured, kissing the spot on her cheek where the bruise had once been. "You saved my soul." Will you let me spend the rest of my life repaying that debt? Iris turned, tears of joy shining in her eyes. She didn't see a monster. She saw her protector, her king, the man who had burned the world down to keep her safe. Yes, she whispered, forever. Roman slid the ring onto her finger, and somewhere in the distance, Elena's laughter mixed with Liam's, carried on the summer breeze, through gardens that had once belonged to people who thought cruelty had no consequences. They had learned differently. In Roman's world, there were rules. You could steal, you could lie, you could cheat, and connive, and manipulate, but you never, ever touched his family. And Iris Dalton, the girl who had shielded an old woman from a slap, had become the most protected person in the entire city. Not because she was weak, but because she had shown strength when it mattered most. And Roman Cross rewarded loyalty with an empire. The wedding was small, intimate, held in the same gardens where Iris had once watched the sun rise on her new life. Elena cried tears of joy. Liam walked Iris down the aisle, his steps steady and strong. And when Roman kissed his bride, the entire organization understood that the balance of power had shifted. The man who had never shown weakness now had won. But anyone who thought that made him vulnerable would learn the same lesson the Sterlings had learned. You don't go after Roman Cross's weakness, because that weakness was protected by a love so fierce it could and would burn the entire world to ash. If this story moved you, smash that. Of courage really can change everything. Sometimes protecting the right person's family